All right. Welcome, everybody, to another World Drum Club Percussion Hang. I'm Kalani, your host, and I'm so pleased to welcome Carolyn Brandy. Thank you for joining us, Carolyn.
You're welcome. I'm excited to talk with you.
And you're in Pennsylvania, you said?
I'm in Philadelphia right now.
Philadelphia. All right. Historical city. Have you hit the bell yet?
I think the bell hit me actually. I'm from the Bay Area, really. Well, originally I'm from Seattle, Washington. I grew up actually in a very rural town called Lacey, Washington, which is now just shopping malls and, like that. But at the time it was rural. I had a really nice upbringing that way with apple trees and fruit trees and lumber, pulp mills,
Mm,
and then I went to Seattle to go to college to the University of Washington. And I moved to the Bay Area in 1975. So I just moved to Philadelphia 2 years ago.
that's right. You were saying to be with your family, and you have a grandson, and
I have a grandson who's 5.
that is
So,
such a fun age, isn't it?
oh my God, he's so fun. Oh my God, he's the joy of my life. Maxwell.
All right. Yeah, that's good. That's a versatile name.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of
He's a
nicknames.
character, let me tell you.
I'm sure.
Besides
Oh,
playing drums, I love to garden.
oh,
And
dude.
he loves the garden. I mean, he is just like ready to go out to the garden at any moment, and he's constantly saying, "Grandma, what should we plant today?" And he's got seeds. He's just incredible. Yeah,
That's fun. Yeah,
really
that's nice.
fun, really fun.
It's nice to hear about a young person who is more, perhaps, I don't know if he's more interested, but at least as interested in dirt and seeds and stuff in the garden as he might be looking into an iPad or something like that.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's
well he does that too.
yeah. How can they avoid it? But
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, he's awesome.
So I'm
Yeah.
curious to know, I think many of us that are into music and whether it's an instrument focus or just a style of music, uh, what was something that where you had, did you have an experience, or what was that moment or event or time period where you decided this is what I want to do? This is cool. I'm excited about this in terms of music or percussion or drumming or any of that.
Yeah, it was kind of a progression of things that happened. Really, I grew up playing the violin. And I was really, really into the music. We played a lot of classical music, and I think I started when I was like 9 or something like that, in the school. And I was in the high school orchestra, and then I did the
Oh.
community orchestra. I went to the all-state orchestra. I was really into that instrument. And then when I went to Seattle to go to college, I was still playing the violin, and I can't remember if I took any music classes. I don't think so, but one day I was at this really stands out in my mind, this memory. I was at the Pike Street Market, of the most iconic place in Seattle, right? The Pike Place Market. And they have buskers there, that play on the street. And there was a group of drummers, and they were singing also Cuban music. And
Mm,
they were really, really good. And they were doing like son, the old timey kind of what we would,
mm-hmm.
the predecessor to the salsa, and I just thought, wow, that is so cool. And I think I saw it as a musician might see it and thought, wow, what an interesting music and how beautiful. And so I went to one of the guys who seemed to be the leader, and I told him how much I liked the music. And he said, well, we're giving a class at the University of Washington if you want to come. And that was the beginning of the beginning of,
Mm.
54 years of drumming, really. That was in 1968, I guess. And so I went to the class, and or maybe 1970, I can't remember. And I really fell in love with the drums. And the thing I fell in love with was that if you opened one door, it led to two doors, and two doors led to four doors, and four doors led to eight doors, and there was no end to it. There
Mm.
was no end to it. And I
Mm-hmm.
was constantly learning. This was during hippie days, Kalani. I was a big time hippie,
Uh-huh.
and we were playing drum. His class, we went from the University of Washington to his house. A guy named Jerry Whedon, Ibae. He's passed now, but he was a wonderful man. And we just started being like a gang, that we were going
Mm.
to all these parties just every weekend. We were there with our drums playing, playing, playing. And it was really, really fun. And also, I just fell in love with the music and I fell in love with the drum. How charismatic it is and
Mm.
what a powerful way to bring people together. So yeah, I was in, and then I started playing with. Do you know Dumi Mariari, the man from Zimbabwe, Shona? He brought Shona music to the United States. I think he's one of the first Africans that came to the United States. He came to the University of Washington to do a residency, and he played mbira and marimba and all that beautiful music from Zimbabwe. And he had a partner who is a great musician, Laura Chora, and I started playing with her. That was my first outing as a drummer.
Hmm.
For me to call myself a drummer was like a big deal. It was like, oh, you have to like be somebody to be a drummer or something. So that's kind of my evolution. And then I played with them with a group we had called Gwenyai, and it was an all women's group, and we traveled all over the place. It was during the Civil War there, not Civil War, but the revolution against England, I guess it was. It used to be called Rhodesia, and then they
Right.
that revolution and it became Zimbabwe. But we were doing all kinds of functions, raising money for that event, those events, I should say, that period of time. So then I have a friend named Michelle Rosewoman. I don't know if you know her. She's the creator and leader of the band New Yoruba in New York. Very incredible, very genius. She's a
Mm.
musical genius. She's a piano
Mm.
player. And she was a friend of mine. She lived in Seattle and she was originally from Oakland. And she said to me, "Why don't we go down to?" We were playing because she likes to play congas too. We were playing congas. She said, "Let's go down to San Francisco for a weekend over Christmas break. Now I want you to meet this guy named Marcus Gordon, and we could take some couple lessons from him." So I said, "Sure." So I think we drove down, and we were hippies. And I went and met this guy Marcus. Marcus is the creator of the San Francisco Carnival. He's a big community guy in San Francisco. He's done a lot of things. Him and Bill Summers and another man named Tobaji were the first ones to bring bata drums to the West Coast.
Mm.
Came from
Hmm.
New York, so he was very influential. So I went and had a lesson with him, and it was so like blew me away. Everything I was playing was kind of like backwards, from his perspective. But anyway, so I went home. I packed up everything, my 4-year-old son, and we got in my little car and we went to San Francisco and lived there. And I studied with Marcus for about 5 years, I guess. And so during that time, 1975, about 1976, also I got my first initiation into the Cuban Santeria at that time. So that's been a long journey for me as well. But I met Rhiannon, who's a singer, incredible vocalist. She travels with Bobby McFerrin,
Mm.
and she's done lots of incredible things. But anyway, I met Rhiannon. We were both young. We met at a workshop that Michelle was giving about for a jazz workshop. Is that how it worked? Anyway, Rhiannon was already singing with the trio in San Francisco, amazing vocalist, and she wanted to put together a group of all women to play for a gig that she had gotten that was going to be at San Francisco State. So she had me on the congas and percussion, and she had Michelle on the piano. And then after that, Rhiannon and I started hanging out, and we created a band called Alive, and that was 1976, I think. Can't remember exactly, but Alive became really, really popular. It was kind of like being in the right place at the right time, because
Hmm.
it was the beginning of the women's music movement. Where all these incredible women, like I think Chris Williamson and Meg Christian, they were the first ones, to put out records from Olivia Records, and And then there was a lot of women, Linda Tillery, Bernice Reagan and Sweet Honey in the Rock, Holly Near, the Dance Brigade with Chrissy Kiefer. I mean, there was a lot of incredible artists that were on the road. And we were one of those artists. And we traveled probably 6 or 7 months out of the year touring. And
Wow.
we got picked up by a heavyweight manager, the manager that had been the manager for Bill Evans. Um, I forget her name now. I can't believe I forgot it now. I remember. But and anyway, so we got inroads into kind of mainstream jazz. We did like 5 nights at the Village Gate. We toured with Flora Purim and Ayrto and played with Paquito de Rivera and did a lot of really amazing things. Really amazing. And we had 3 albums. We released 3 albums and we also have a compilation CD. So all that happened like immediately after, not immediately, but after I had been in San Francisco for about like a year.
Wow. So
And
that is amazing, I think, especially given the time. And for
took off.
for those people that are listening that aren't familiar with the Afro-Cuban traditions, especially Santeria, can you talk a little bit about how it was being a woman? Because I know for many, many years there were no women were even allowed to play bata,
Oh no.
traditionally. And what was your experience like breaking into and moving out of and beyond, that tradition, but also just the women's music movement as a whole? What are some highlights or
Yeah.
things that you think people should know?
So I had this whole thing going with the live where we were really at the center of all this music. We were going to Michigan and all these incredible festivals and traveling all over the country, Canada. We did incredible. We did a double bill with Betty Carter. We did a double bill with Art Blakey. Can you imagine?
Hmm. Wow.
And we were because we had this manager who was like, we got reviewed in the New York Times. I mean, we were kind of like on our way to being, something big. Of course, it didn't last that long, but it lasted about 10 years. But anyway, and at the same time, I had been initiated into this what they call in Cuba, regla de ocha, the rule of the rock. It's a philosophy that comes from Nigeria. It's Yoruban,
Hmm.
and it deifies the natural order of things: the wind, the rain, the oceans, the mountains. The ocean, the rivers, and I mean, the belief is in one God, one overall creator, but all of these things that are in nature are aspects of the creator that are
Hmm.
deified. And so the music is we play for those orisha, what we call orisha, and it comes from a word ori, which is in our head, ori, which is our biggest guide, is what we already know, the spirit that lives inside of us, right? So in that tradition, there's so much music in Cuba. I mean, it's like, that's one tradition. There's 4 different cultures that have retained their original language, their religion, their dances, their drums, and the Yoruba is one of them.
Mm.
Another one is Congo, what they call Bantu in Cuba, Congolese, and also that encompasses other Central African countries too that had fewer people, that came. But the Congolese is probably the biggest influence in Cuba, and the Yoruba is also right up there with the Congolese. And then there's the Arara,
Mm.
the people that came from Benin originally, and then also what they call the Karabali, the people that came from Calabar and Cameroon, and less numbers. But anyway, it's fascinating because all of these different traditions, they speak their language, right? I mean, it's like a Creole. It's been creolized over the years, over 400 years, 500 years.
Hmm.
But like Lukumi is what they speak, the Yoruban speak, and all of the songs that we sing, Ago ile, ago, ago ile, ago, ago ile, ago, ago ile, ago, ya, iba orisa, iba la ye o, ago mo yuba. All of those songs, which there are thousands. have been remembered. Imagine if we got all of a sudden taken by aliens to outer space. What would we remember?
Mm.
Imagine that. I see you smiling there. Uh, It's just like kind of phenomenal, that they preserved all that music. And, they were in slavery when they did that. And a lot of the enslaved people lived in the fields. They lived there. They cut cane and they lived in those cane fields.
Mm.
And they were able to pass all that down to their children and their grandchildren. And granted, the slavery in Cuba was maybe a little bit different than it was here because it's an island, it's smaller. And so they they were able to kind of stay together a little bit more, you know what I mean? And they knew who on the next plantation where they came from. And then somewhere in there in the 1800s, most of the Yorubans came in the 1800s when when sugar became white gold, they called it
Mm.
on the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And um, some early on, maybe in the late 1700s, the Spanish agreed to create these what they call cabildos. And a cabildo is an African preservation society.
Mm.
And they allowed them to keep their language and keep their teaching their children, their language, if they got baptized in the Catholic Church,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So
So
there's a
what
little
happened?
trade-off there.
Yeah, they had to become Catholics, and if they did that, then they would allow them to get together to preserve their culture. So what happened was when the Yorubans went into the Catholic Church, they saw Maria there, the Virgin Mary with the baby, and she was all in blue and white, and they said, "Oh, there's Yemaya, the
Mm.
saints, Santeria saint, right? There's Yemaya. Her color is blue and white. She's the mother and giver of all life. She's the ocean. That's Yemaya." And then they saw different ones. Santa Barbara. She had a double-edged axe, and she was all in red and white. And they said, "That's Shango. Shango carries a double-edged axe. Shango is the thunder and lightning." So they did that with all their orishas, and it was like not an accidental thing. It was conscious. It was revolutionary and conscious. So when you go to Cuba today, it's like it's been so syncretized that it's kind of mind blowing, Kalani. I remember one time on the day of Obatala. Obatala is my saint, the snow-capped mountains. On his day of every Orisha has a feast day,
Mm.
and so on his day, the Virgin of Mercy is his Catholic counterpart. Obatala. Obatala is male and female, by the way. So on that day, in the biggest cathedrals in Cuba, they had all the people came dressed, all the santeras came, the santeros all in their white, their headdresses, their beads. I remember because I went back up behind the pulpit, where you can look out at the congregation. There must have been 500 people there that were santeros. And the priest himself was saying, "I'm a priest of such and such, and I'm a priest of Oya, and I'm a priest of Obatala, and I'm also a Catholic priest." And it's it's like, wow, kind of mind blowing. But I think I'm probably getting off the track here.
Well, it
Interesting,
is
but
fascinating. It's fascinating, and
yeah,
anybody who's listening, yeah, if you want to look into this, there's some resources on Santeria. There's some books out there. There's people that could take you down that for studying historical. But I want to get back to you as a musician and a leader in the community, because I think you're very much you play more roles than, not to make a pun, that's a bad pun. You play more
yeah.
roles than just a drummer.
Well,
Uh,
let's go back to what happened. Like, I was in a live. I was traveling the country, but meanwhile, I had this association with Marcus, and his Ile, his Santeria house, and the drummers that were part of that house. And I was hearing bata drums. And in 1988, and Marcus was teaching me congas, although he got a lot of criticism for that.
mm,
Why was he teaching a woman congas? And he shouldn't be doing that because at that time, 1968, you had to have somebody that wanted you to play because it was not done. It just wasn't done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, uh, yeah, so there was a workshop that happened in Tijuana, a very famous workshop. You might have heard about it in 88, 89, and 1990, where a friend of mine actually organized this. And she's Cuban, and she brought these drummers from the Conjunto Folclórico Nacional to Tijuana to do a workshop. They couldn't get into the States, so we all went down to Tijuana. And at the workshop, there was a man by the name of Mario Auregui. He just passed about 6 months ago. And I wanted to learn, I had decided I wanted to learn to play bata. And no women were allowed to play bata. If there was a ceremony and we had our period, we couldn't even go in the room where the drums were. I mean, it was very, very taboo. So I went to the diviner. I went to the prophet Arula of Narisha, who the diviners ask questions to, and I asked because I had heard that at the Conjunto Folclórico Nacional they were starting to teach European women to play bata. I had heard that. My friend had told me that. And I thought, wow, I want to do that. I'd already been playing like 20 years or more
Mm-hmm.
than 20 years. So I went to the Arula, I went to the Ifa, it's called Ifa, and Arula said, yes, do it. You can do it if you have a pure heart. So I went to Tijuana and I went. Everybody was kind of jockeying for space, around Mario. He's a short man, about 5 feet tall. There's all these guys. I mean, really, a lot of famous drummers were there. The drummers for the Temptations, for Confunction. I mean, big time drummers that were there. That came from L.A. and different places. And so I was kind of like a fly on the wall. But at some point, I asked Mario. I said, Mario, I've been playing congas for a long time. Can I come to the class, the bata class? He goes, no mujeres, no mujeres. I said, oh, okay then. So that night we were playing. The guys were playing for a dance class, and they're playing makuta or something I knew, and I was just standing there. And one of the guys that was playing, I guess he had to go to the bathroom or something. He had to get up, and he looked around. He saw me. He said, "You want to play?" I said, "Yeah, I'll play." So I got on the conga. I was playing my part. I knew my part. I was playing, and pretty soon I see Mario. He's playing. He's looking at me like he's looking like wow. And so after that, it was not nighttime. He told me, "Be here tomorrow morning for the class." Man of little words. So, okay. So I went that morning, and all the fellas were in there. I mean, some pretty famous drummers, and they were all playing and having a great time. And I was like a fly on the wall. Like I said, I just kind of stood there. I was waiting. There was another woman in the room, but she was like warming up for the dance class. And so I was standing there, shifting my weight. And Mario was typically late. And he came in the room and he pointed to me and he pointed to the drums and went like that. And you could have heard Kalani. You could have heard a pin and drop. I mean, it was like, oh my God. And so I got on the little drum, which is where you start, and it's called un congolo. And he drilled me. And the other guys, there's three that are played together. And then after that session, he said, you have a beautiful feeling for the drum. He said, come to the class. I want you to come to the class. And so that was really beautiful. And then all heck broke loose and everybody got on his case and we're telling him, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? You can't teach her. She's this, she's that, she's the other thing. And so after about a day of that or two, he came to me and he said, I can't teach you here because it's too political. He said, but if you come to Cuba, I'll teach you whatever you want to know.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that summer, I think it was in June, it was hotter than holy heck. Took my son, he was 16 by then, yeah, and we went to Cuba for 6 weeks. And I did the 2 week conjunto folclórico. They had a thing, workshop. I did that, and then every day for the next 4 weeks, I went to Mario's house and studied with him and his Cuban young men that he was teaching. And I videoed.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the first woman in North America to play bata. So I went back to the United States, and man, people were furious. You know,
Oh, were they?
who do you think you are, and what do you think you're doing? And they did all kinds of things. They came over to my house. They were trying to see what I had learned and what I could do. One guy who's a big priest, Ifa priest, called me and asked me, did I want to buy a set of fundamental drums? Those are the ones that women aren't supposed to play. Still today, what we were playing were the social drums. There's two sets. There's two types of bata drums. There's the social drums, abelincula, and there's the ones who have gone through a lot of religious ceremony, a lot. That's ancient, and
Hmm.
those are called fundamental. And of course, I didn't want to buy them, but he wanted to see, I guess, if I would take the bait, you know.
Hmm.
So anyway, I got ostracized, I got ignored, I got talked about, I was embarrassed in public quite a few times, and it just was, I got a death threat. I mean, it
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
yeah, this is serious business, man. And so that's how that went. But you know, I had the videos. Dun diddy dun. I had the videos, and there were a couple of women that we used to every week we would study those videos. And then what happened was a woman in Cuba, Amelia Pedroso, Amelita, they call her. She's a very famous. She's died in the year 2000. She was a very famous singer, and she there was a video that was made. It was called A Day in the Life, and it kind of followed around a lot of the major artists in Havana that were drummers and folkloric artists. And so when I was in the conjunto, when I was there in the conjunto, at the last day, we gave a performance for the in the workshop. We gave a performance for the community to see, and the television was there. The TV cameras were there, and
Hmm.
they filmed it. They filmed it, and Mario, bless his heart, he put me on the on the iya, the big drum that gives all the
Wow.
calls for the performance. And he had another woman, Milena de Olga. You might know Milena. She
Hmm.
was also at the workshop, and he had her on. I can't remember if it was, I think Itotele
Wow.
or
Yeah.
and he filmed it, and they filmed it. The television crew filmed it, and the Cubans were like slapping me on the back. Yeah, it finally happened. It finally happened. Ah. And anyway, like 2 years later, that was 88. 3 years later, this film came out, A Day in the Life. And Amelia Pedroso, who was already very well known as a singer of music, a ceremonial singer, she said in the film, when I saw our men teaching the bata drums, I said, "That's my drum, and I'm going to play it too."
Hmm.
Yeah. So she started a group called Ibu Okun, the river and the sea, the river and the sea. And they had all women bata playing and women and men dancing. So, and that was the first group of bataleras
Hmm.
in Cuba. But I have to think that what I did, just because I had this passion to play drums, it cracked that door open a little bit. So now there's like women all over Cuba that play. And the United States. Not I mean not so many, but there's quite a few women that play bata. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. And I think that there is that stigma that was removed, and thank hopefully nobody's getting death threats these days, but thank you for being brave and following your heart, following your passion, and following the music and the culture, because I think that that's what's important. And I'm sure the Cubans are grateful, because now look, we're having this conversation, and their names are being remembered and spoken, and the history, is coming from you, not from a man. It's coming from you.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about, and actually, if you're cool with it, maybe give an example of whatever you feel is appropriate to share. I'm sure some people might want to hear a little taste of what we're talking about, but maybe you could do that, and then afterwards, I'm curious to know more about how music is working in your life now, and what kinds of things are happening, in your community, and what your vision is, for where you'd like to see things going forward.
Where should we start, Kalani? There
How
was
about
also
playing
that.
first, and then you can think about it a little
Are you
bit.
going to play a
You'd
little
like to?
bit?
Sure, that would be great.
Okay. Well, here's the bata here. You see the bata? These are the bata. It's a two-headed drum.
Can't see it quite, but yeah, if you, oh, there we go. Yeah.
This is the atotole. This Philadelphia weather is terrible on drums because it's real hot one day and then it's raining the next day.
Yeah.
So you can see. Yeah, there's a lot, Kalani. There is so much music. This is another drum. This is a drum from a different set. This came from Come Away. So you see, there's 6 hands playing, and the polyrhythm is just like off the easy. I mean, it's just it's just like, who thought of this? You have to say it must have been spirit, because the polyrhythm is just outrageous. It's unbelievable, and there's so much music. So if I had known I was going to play these today, maybe I would have tried to tune them up. But you get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So there's melodies going between the 3 tones as well as between the slaps. But I have to say, my first love is the conga drums. Still, I love congas. I love conga. So the bata is like, if you're gonna have a ceremony or a party for an orisha, you have all these choices that you can make. You can have the bata drums play. You could have the social drums play, or you could have the fundamento play. If you have the fundamento, then it's a lot of ceremony that you have to do before to get the drums ready, and it's a lot. It's very formal. And or you could have a guiro. A guiro is 3 shakeres and 1 what they call tumbadora, is what they call in Cuba. The conga is called tumbadora. 3 shakeres and a tumbadora, or you could have a benbe, which is 3 congas and a bell. The guiro has a bell too, the 6/8 bell pattern. You know. If you want to learn any of this music, that's high up on the list to learn. Or you could have a violin for Ochun. Ochun is the rivers, and she's the goddess of beauty, everything that's beautiful in life and sensual. And so you can have a ceremony for Oshun with violins and cello strings. Yeah. So there's all these different ways that you can, or you can have, yeah, you can have, of course, it's all accompanied by singing, This is a guiro. Can you see my hands?
Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
So I mean, you're still teaching and making music and you have events and things. How would people connect with you, more, learn
Yeah.
from you, study with you, know at least know what you're doing, what's going on, what opportunities are available?
Well, I have a Facebook page. I have a camp called Born to Drum, which was born out of, um, the realization that, there was a taboo for women to play drums, not just in this country, but on the whole planet. I mean, really, women were not supposed to play drums anywhere. Like Native American women couldn't play, African women couldn't play, Asian women couldn't play, European women couldn't play. I mean, you name it. For some reason, back in the matriarchy, I guess it was taken away. I don't know. I think
Hmm.
Alexandra Bellasoni has a lot to say about that, but it's just a fact. And um, all of us, when we get together and we talk about what we've been through, like especially people my age, and I'll be 76 this summer. And I started playing in 68. Back then it was like really like I think I'd go to a party and people would take the drum, or I'd go to the park and everybody'd get up and go to another place and play, and just really. And like when I broke that barrier of the bata, I got death threats, and it was just very misogynistic, and it was something that.
No, you're such a good boy. Right.
Huh? Somebody say something.
Oh, yeah, it's okay. I think somebody was talking to somebody, but and that reminds me actually, we want to open up to questions,
Oh yeah.
which you guys can type in the chat, and I can ask it, or you can like use the hand raising thing and ask it yourself.
But
But
anyway,
yeah,
so
there
I,
a lot of taboo, a lot of misogyny, a lot of people being protective, I guess, of things they thought they needed to protect.
I started this drum camp called Born to Drum, and it's for women.
Mm,
We have women from all over the world that come to teach. They live in the United States, most of them,
mm-hmm,
and it's phenomenal. It is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. All these master teachers and players.
mm.
So yeah, check it out. Born to Drum or womendrummers.org. That's my website.
Womendrummers.org. Mm-hmm.
I have a YouTube channel. You find me on Facebook, or you can just write me on Facebook.
There you go. Yeah, and people, some of the World Drum Club people know I put a post on my Facebook that that they can find yours from there. And you teach online too, right? You just taught a couple Zoom classes this morning.
I do. I have a few drum Zoom classes, and I enjoy it. I love it. I love to teach. So yeah, if anybody's interested in classes, I have classes for the Conga drum.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay, awesome. And obviously more than just conga drumming. I'm just curious because we talked earlier before we started about what music means to us, like sort of our where it fits into our lives a little bit. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but what I guess I would just ask you, like, what does music how does music serve you in your life, out but aside from the music part?
That's what I am confused about that question aside from the music. I can't wrap my head around
Like,
that.
what does it do? What kinds of things do you see happening that perhaps people you feel like people need more of, or you need more of, that comes
Oh,
as a result of
well, the music, and especially
music?
I would say that especially the drum is medicine. Without a doubt, it is medicine.
Mm,
And I think, especially, I guess I say especially the drum because I'm a drummer and that's my instrument. But what happens when we drum in groups, when we go it's very easy to get into an ecstatic place
mm,
where I think what happens is that you're brought into the present moment. You can't think about what you're going to fix for breakfast tomorrow. It's like you're in the moment, and whenever we come into that presence of the now,
mm-hmm.
Ekbar what his name is, Tole.
Eckhart. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that's a very that's profound medicine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what the music can do. Music is beyond words. You know, music can provoke emotion from you and you don't even know why or what it is.
Hmm.
It may not even be any lyrics. I mean, really metaphysically, there's music and there's light, and everything else is waves of
Mm.
frequency, energy, sound and light. And
Hmm.
so that's what we're working with, you know, when we make music. Is that is are those waves, but everything is in a wave. All energy is in wave forms. And so they say that music is the highest art form, and I think that's probably true, you know, and and you can use it for healing. Lots of cultures have.
Hmm.
Old ancient cultures used sound for healing.
Well, you mentioned Alessandra Bologna, right? And that's her whole thing. And we had Alessandra on interview a while
I
ago, but
saw it. I saw it.
yeah. And Lane Redmond's work, of course.
Of course, Lane, had the opportunity to play with her one time, and that was fabulous. Beautiful person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, you know, it's like music is everything. Music's everything.
Yeah.
Music encompasses our life. You know, you think about sometimes you hear a song and you get a memory. Or,
Hmm.
you know, you can think about periods of your life. Oh yeah, when I went to college, you can remember the songs that you were listening to, and it will evoke that memory to come from your deepest consciousness, you know, or a person. You can almost smell the person when you hear that song. It's
Hmm.
like, wow, you know, it's very deeply, it's our first experience of being alive is hearing your mother's heartbeat. So imagine, I mean, thinking about all of that, all of this is manifestations
Hmm.
of
Right.
that.
It's a way to remember and feel and be in touch with all of those things.
And you know, when you take my classes too, I talk a lot about Cuban cultures. I've been to Cuba more than 30 times.
Mm.
And I've taken tours there to study drumming and dance. And it's remarkable to me what they did,
Hmm.
how they were able to preserve so much culture and music over 400 years of being enslaved. Slavery didn't end there till 1886. I have friends whose grandparents and great grandparents came as slaves in Cuba. And so it's just like kind of mind blowing. It's kind of incomprehensible. And it shows me, it's inspiring to me because it shows me what the human spirit is capable of.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah.
And it's really something to be with these people and study with these people. I'm a professional student. I'm constantly studying.
Yeah.
I'm
Wow. Well,
constantly studying.
that's powerful. It really makes you appreciate it too. And I think in the U.S. especially, or in what they call developed countries, that economically developed, we often forget how much other people have had to endure, and the just the sheer will and strength and struggles and for generations, and it's easy for us to walk around like it's a grocery store and just pick things and put it in our shopping cart from other countries, but I think we ought to, when I'm hearing you right now, it just makes me go back to the people that have had to persevere in this. I think about Hawaiian people. It's part of my
Ah,
family tradition and all the things that they had to do. But yet the cultures, like Cuban cultures, like West African cultures, the Hawaiian cultures, all of these cultures are so highly revered now for those reasons, right?
yeah. They should be highly revered because they really have the answer to our problems. So they Native Americans know how to,
Yes.
you know, treat the earth.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, I've been in teepee meetings. I remember one guy saying, you know, that they used to have their teepee meetings. It was illegal. They dug tunnels down in the earth and went down in the earth and had their tunnel and had their meetings so they wouldn't be detected. I mean, the things that these people did to preserve, and it's not just, it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Right.
That's what's
Yeah.
so deep about it. And so it's upsetting to me when somebody has like fallen in love with something and then they feel like they own it. You know,
Mm.
it's theirs and they're the one and this is how it goes and blah blah. You know, it's just
Hmm.
because we're standing on the shoulders of a million billion people
That's right.
went through the worst conditions just to have all this music survive. And yet the Cubans are so beautiful about it because they want us to play. They want us to take it. They want us to pass it on, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's really important. That's been my experience too, having studied with people, West Africans or Brazilians or whoever, is that they do. It's, I mean, that's culture. That's a cultural exchange. And while we do have this idea of cultural appropriation and using things inappropriately, that also exists. But the main thing is cultural sharing, I think, and appreciation, right?
Exactly.
Which is what you're doing. If anybody has any questions, we're not short on time, but we're gonna wrap up pretty soon. So if anybody has any questions, put them in the chat or just like wait. Yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
Hi, oh, Carolyn, well, thank you for that beautiful performance, first of
Oh,
all.
you're welcome.
Yes, and I was just wondering in terms of learning some of the most basic Cuban rhythms on the conga, do you have maybe 2 or 3 that you would say are good starting rhythms to listen to and try to figure out?
Yeah. Because it's kind of overwhelming, Rebecca, in a way, because there's so much music. That's the other thing. There's so much. But you know, mostly people that teach congas will start with your basic tumbao because
Okay.
that's the rhythm that's in popular music. And honestly, to tell you the truth, tumbao comes from a rhythm called tumba, and this rhythm is the basis for a whole bunch of rhythms. It sets up a prototype, right? Where the left hand is on the downbeat, right?
Okay.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and so from here we get then we double the right hand, then we double the left hand with a what we call a heel toe, bass hinge, and then we're gonna put the second slap, that one over here on the left hand. So that's tumbao.
Right.
That's tumbao. But also from this prototype, instead of having the slap come up like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, I'm going to syncopate that slap. I'm going to make it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And that's a rhythm called tumbadora that's played for the wawanko, right? The wawanko.
Okay.
Now, also you can take that same prototype and put it into a feeling of 3. But it's the same, right? See, my foot is and hand are still together. And we play, now we're playing a rhythm called Benbe. See that? Which is not too, or Aruba, Colombia. If I was going to go back to the 4, there I am in 4, and here I am in 3. See what I'm saying? So in polyrhythm, you know, those between the duple pulse and the triple pulse, the 3 pulses, it's kind of flowing. It can kind of flow back and forth. That's what jazz is. That's what we call swing. When something swings, they can swing between a 3 or a 2 feel of 2 or 3, and that's what that does. But that particular rhythm here sets you up for a lot of how the hands work on the congas in Cuban music.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
That was really that was such an elegant way to just move through those concepts. I love that. It's just very simple,
Yeah.
but you showed the connection. You showed many different ways to play it. You know, just different complexities, simple and a little more filled out. Uh, awesome. I love that. This is why you
Yeah.
guys need to study with Carolyn. Because she
I
is a
have,
teacher. I think being a student though, you appreciate you change the way you teach, right? Because you learn from different teachers, and then sometimes you say, "Well, I would never do that." Sometimes it's what other teachers do that you say, I would never do that," and then you find another way, that so you develop your own style.
I mean, human beingness is really, it's incredible how talented people are. There's so many incredible people. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, it's just amazing. So many amazing drummers. So many amazing, amazing drummers. I like the way you play too, Kalani. I've seen some of your videos. It's beautiful because you don't overplay, You're really like in the pocket and really you're serving the music.
Oh, thank you.
I really appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I tell people I'm not a drummer's drummer. I'm just a drummer, a regular drum. I'm not. There are those like Giovanni Hidalgo and Changuito and the people. I mean, that's great, but that's not me. Yeah, I think I have too many interests too. I also like gardening. I like cars. I ride motorcycles. I have mountain bike. I like other stuff. I don't have enough time to be a crazy drummer. Just a decent drummer is good. That's fine.
The people you mentioned, they started when they were like babies.
Yeah.
I'm studying with a guy now, Manly Lopez. We call him, his nickname is Piri. He's a virtuoso. I don't know if you've seen him online. Unbelievable. I just went to Mexico City to hang out with him. I,
Mm.
I met him in Cuba actually probably 20 years ago. And he was saying that when he was an infant, they put the drums in his crib with him.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he said it's different when you grow up with it. He said you can't not do it because everybody's doing it. There isn't anything else to do, and so it's just a different incarnation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're put here. We have our destiny. We believe in destiny. You have your destiny. I have mine, and all of you guys there, you have your destiny, and that's where we're at with that. We're following our own destinies.
Right. Yeah, and some of us are here to open doors and show a path, and connect people to other people
Yeah.
vis-a-vis this, but also just to give people a little shove in a direction, and say there's a teacher down there that's going to help you, but I mean that's not me, but I can open the door for you.
Yeah.
You know.
I think that's been one of my biggest things that I came in here to do is bring people together because I've been able to do that. Yeah. I
That's a
consider
beautiful.
myself a cultural worker, actually, to tell you the truth.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I've broken a few taboos that way without meaning to. It was never my desire to break the taboo of playing congas or break the taboo of playing batata. It was just that I wanted to drum. I had a
Mm-hmm.
passion for playing drums and I followed it, like you were saying. And so, a lot of things came out of that. A lot of women were, like you said, were guided to go and take up drumming, and then a lot of drum women started playing drums together and actually really liked it. They like playing together. And so that's been a kind of a mission of mine, I guess. And so
Mm.
well, there was the first, group of 5 women playing jazz. It was in 1975. That was unheard of. And then I started a group called Sista Boom, which in 1981, which was I put the call out, let's get together and play for Gay Day. And like 60 people showed up. At the height of there was 125 women playing percussion together. And
Wow.
that
Nice.
group is still going here in 2022. They're still going. And then I started, I don't know, there's a bunch of stuff. I took a lot of people to Cuba to learn. with the masters over there, the old people. We went through the whole island. And then the end of my story was that when I finally made priest, being a priest with Amelia Pedroso. She was my godmother. Imagine that.
Mm.
All of that. You know, it's kind of sometimes you wonder if things weren't supposed to be. So yeah, I made Santo, blah blah, and then I don't know, the Bata thing, and then now I have Born to Drum, which I'm really proud of, which brings a lot of people, a lot of women together.
And there's something that's, it is different when it's all women as opposed to a mixed group. It is just a different energy, and I think it's important. I think especially for women, because women have been marginalized in many ways throughout history, even today, still. And there's certain things that are not going to happen unless women do those things for themselves and have that certain energy and aesthetic and help from each other. And so, thank you for creating that
Yeah, you're
space.
welcome. Thank you for saying it too, for recognizing it. It's not any better than, mixed group or whatever. It's just one option,
Right.
that we're able to spend 4 days together playing drums as women. That's all.
Yeah.
But I don't know, people get upset. They get upset. So
Well,
whatever.
I think one thing we've established throughout this conversation is that there's always going to be some people getting upset about something. But that's not our problem. That's their problem. But no,
Yeah.
there's a different energy, yeah, and it's not about being, exclusionary or exclusive. It's just saying, I mean, I could imagine, I'm not the right person to talk about this subject, actually, as a, whatever cis white male, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes people need a safe space, a place where the certain kinds of judgments are not going to be there, and there's a certain support that is going to be there, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's important, especially for the people that are starting out on the journey. I think, that's an important time. People are vulnerable. There has to be a certain tenderness and care that it. So I think it's great to have that option.
That's so well said. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's good.
I know that because I'm a white man, you see. So
Are you? I didn't see you. I didn't see that about you. I really didn't. I didn't say, "Oh, Kalani's a white man."
No, I'm just
Ah,
kidding. Yeah.
it's all what's
I'm
in your
mixed.
heart, man. That's what's important. What's in your heart.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and talk about these things, and I hope we can continue and revisit, and keep the connection going too.
Yes, please. Let's do.
Are you still planning? Are you planning to do any more Cuba trips? Because I have yet to go. And
Everybody's asking me. I'm gonna have like 100 people, man. Oh, and the Cubans are asking me, when are you coming? I've got a whole ton of friends in Cuba, but well, I actually had linked up with a woman who I knew as a kid over there. I was friends with her grandmother, and her grandmother passed, and she works in the music, so she's a producer, and so I asked her if we could do a trip together. She said, yeah, and then COVID happened. COVID, and shut everything down, and they
Yeah.
have really struggled over there, man, because
Yeah.
first Trump took away everything, he took all the stuff away that was helping them, families send money, and
Right.
Obama was really good, we could go there pretty not easily, and Trump
Made it easier, yeah.
yeah, it took all away, and now Biden just opened things back up though. And then COVID came. So those were their two sources of money, was family sending money and tourism.
Mm.
They have really, really, really suffered over there.
Well, count me in when you get going again. When the time is right, let me know, because I'm serious. I need to go.
Oh, that would be an honor to have you on a trip, Kalani. Really. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
You got to put up with some dad jokes, though. That's the problem.
That's okay. My son's a dad.
That's right. So you probably hear some dad jokes.
No, I haven't. But you're gonna have to Zoom me now later and tell me.
I I just make bad jokes. I'm
Ah,
a wannabe comedian, stand-up comedian. That's my
really? Me too.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
I think we should all aspire to that. Well, we're gonna wrap up. Carolyn, I thank you so much again,
I
and
appreciate you.
likewise, very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah, bless you and your family and your grandson, everybody over there, and
You.
you know, yeah.
93 degrees over here today. I'm like, whoa.
We'll try to send you some cooling breezes from LA. It's actually cool and overcast here today, which is weird,
Oh,
but
California. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's so sweet of you, and you stayed the whole time. It was really nice.
yeah. Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks Carolyn,
Thanks,
and
Kalani.
this will be on the channel at some point, but yeah, thanks for being here and appreciate you.
You too. Ciao.
Bye-bye everyone. Thank you.